Hi, I'm Ron Herhuth Interactive. I want to introduce you today to GarmaxPRO, the ultimate cycling app. It's used with Garmin utility, in this case the Garmin Edge 510. If you're familiar with that, it's real easy to do. You just push the start button and go. And then it collects the data and GPS information that GarmaxPRO will use in a little bit. So let's go ahead and take a quick ride, and then we'll look how it works. Okay, now that our ride is complete, we need to go ahead and we're going to upload the files to Garmin Connect from our Garmin device that has the information of the ride we just completed, and we're going to go ahead and upload that into the iPhone. And I'll show you how that works in a second. To Garmin Connect. I happen to use their free iPhone app, and we'll go ahead and launch that right now. Now we're at home. We have not synced it, so I'm going to turn on my Garmin and wait for a second while that boots up. Okay, and then what you'll see is it'll sync with my Edge 510 there, so it's uploading everything, and it'll take a few seconds. Okay, when it flashes green at the bottom, you know that you are uploaded onto Garmin's site. And what you can see there is we've got a few untitled activities, and I'm most interested in the top one. That's the one we just rode. And then what you'll see there, I had a blistering average speed of 16.65 miles an hour, and I went 2.5 miles. All right. So what I usually like to do here is in Garmin Connect, up on the top right corner you see the three dots. I'll select that and click Edit. Then we'll give it a meaningful name. This ride a meaningful name, and we will call this, of course, Garmax. But anyway, then click Done. It'll update that, and that's all we need to do in the Garmin app. Now the other ways, there's several other ways that you can do this. They have the downloader or file uploader that you can use. You can connect where you connect it to your computer and upload it. I like the free app, and I like this because you can do this right after the ride in the parking lot or what have you. You can just upload that ride. Next, we're going to go ahead and launch GarmaxPRO. This will take a few minutes. It's actually going to load the activities, and it does load all of the activities that you have. So the more activities, it does take a little bit longer to upload. Right here it says we have 10 pages, and there we have the GarmaxPRO. The first screen that you're brought to is your activities list, and as you can see we have those three activities. The two untitled came over, as well as the GarmaxPRO Demo, which is the one we're interested in. You can see that it was on Saturday, 7/26. I went 2 miles, and I was doing it for 7 minutes and 22 seconds. Not Tour de France material here by any chance. Average 16.7 miles an hour, average heartbeat of 150 beats per minute, and I went up to 159. So let's go ahead. Now if you touch on that activity, you'll see the loading indicator, and it'll go out to Garmin, and then it brings it in. Now this is the best part of GarmaxPRO. This is your main screen where you look at it. There's a lot going on here, so let me try to walk through it real quick. If you notice on the top, there's a graph. The red graph is your heart rate. The blue graph is your speed. The green graph is your cadence. The yellow is power. We'll talk about that in a second. And then the elevation is the gray at the bottom. Now you'll also see some vertical gray lines. Those are your laps. In this instance, I did manual laps. There was some areas I was interested in, so I pushed the lap button on the Garmin while we were riding and picked those out. If you ride on a trainer or if you're doing your intervals and you use the workout feature of the Garmin, it'll automatically set laps for you. If you're on a circuit race or a criterium, you'll want to set up the auto lap function so you don't have to remember to hit lap every mile, because you're probably going to be, your mind's going to be somewhere else at the point. So I did not set up auto lap on this. I did all the laps manually. Laps are your best friend with GarmaxPRO for reasons I will show you in just a second. Down at the bottom you'll see a map of where we went. I just went around my subdivision. There's a nice little climb on the back side, and then there's a downhill descent, and basically it just shows that's where I rode. If you do a road ride or what have you, it'll show you the whole route that you had and everything. It's real useful information. Now down the left hand side you'll see a series of numbers: heart rate zone, the speed, cadence, power, time, and distance, and the percent grade that you're on. Well, let me show you a little trick here. If you touch the graph anywhere, you'll notice this gray line with the white dots come. Now I'm going through and I'm just sliding that, and you can see with the gray indicator on the map, that's exactly where I was at that point. The red and green on the map show the start finish, and they correspond to the green line up at the top here. It shows you, and it's completely movable the same way. So if we're interested on this back corner, for example, we just set the green indicator at that. It is a little difficult because it is an iPhone and we're dealing with a small area, but it's pretty amazing functionality when you consider that. And then the red pointer shows you where you are at the end. So if we move that over to right there, and then we can move in the gray within that area. But one of the cool features that you won't find on any iPhone apps is the ability to zoom in. If you notice the magnifying glass on the far left, that clicking that will zoom into that selected area. So now you see between the green and the red where we are. Now you notice there's that hill that I was talking about. It's along the back side of the route there. Now if you notice on the left hand side, all those numbers show you what your heart rate, your cadence, your power, your distance, the time that you were at that specific point. And as you move that, you'll notice that the gray indicator moves along with that. That shows you where you are. Now I just so happen to select a lap and a half here, so that's why that's showing like that. But nevertheless, you can zoom in again. I just want to focus on just that steep incline there and press the plus. Now we're zoomed right into that area. Now you see the beginning and the end points by the green and the red marker, and also you'll notice the little triangles. The little triangles above each of the graph segments show you the maximum. For the red triangle shows the maximum heart rate reached during that segment. The maximum speed is by the blue indicator, and so on and so forth. And so you can kind of see what you did there. Sliding the line, again, the marker, the main marker, you can follow along and see exactly where everything is at each given point. One of the cool features that are built into this is the play arrow. Now if you go down to the very bottom, or on the bottom left hand side, one button up, you'll see the arrow. If you click that arrow, it'll play that section back, and it plays it at 3 times the normal speed, so it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. Also, you can zoom back out by clicking the magnifying glass minus, and that'll zoom you back out and reset everything so that you can look at the whole ride again. The last button in the bottom left there is the graph button. Okay, so right now we see the map. Now if we click that button, now we see a whole flurry of different information. And now all this coincides with averages and maximums during the selected area. So if I move the green arrow, it'll recalculate all those values based on what that specific selection. And also you can still zoom in on that and get that information. So first thing at the top, you see your zone chart distribution. So we have zone 1 through 5. We notice that we spent 6.1% of my time in zone 3, and then it gives you the 26 seconds I was in zone 3, and then 65.2% of the time, or 4 minutes and 47 seconds, I was in zone 4, and I hit zone 5 for 28.8% of the time, 2.7 minutes. The whole ride went for 7 minutes and 22 seconds, distance 2 miles. My average cadence was 60.8. I can't let my coach know about that. The average heart rate is 149, the max heart rate is 159, the average power I put out is 165, and the max power is 883. One thing I want to tell you about the power is I do not have a power meter. If you do have a power meter, it will read the power off of the power meter, and all is good and dandy. The issue with power calculations, which we use, and we tried to use the most advanced function that we can, it is strictly an estimate. It's repeatable, so that if you're doing your interval training and such like that on the same routes, there's still wind to consider, there's traffic and things like that you won't see in your power distribution. We've added that as a nicety, but you just kind of use that for reference. With a power meter, however, it will give you the accurate data, and you can use that in your training program. I want to revisit the laps for a second. I said laps are GarmaxPRO best feature. I think they are anyway, because you'll notice down here in the middle of the screen there's a button that's called laps. Then next to it is a plus, and next to it is a minus. What we can do is cycle through those laps. So I'm going to click the plus button right now. Now we're looking at strictly just the first lap, and it shows you the display updates, or the button updates, to show you lap 1. Everything in your lower panel updates to show you that. So we know that in this case I spent the majority of time in zone 4 and touched in zone 5 a little bit, and it tells you all your averages. Now we want to cycle to the second lap and click the plus again, and we get that display. Now also you can click the globe button to bring the map back to see where we're looking at for the segment, so you can kind of see where you are. And I hit my highest speed right there at 24.2 miles an hour, and that shows me right where that is. That just so happens to be on a hill. I'm not Superman yet. So basically that's kind of it, and you can cycle through there, and it'll update the displays, and you can kind of toggle back and forth between that. Also, now when you're done with the laps, if you cycle through all the laps, it'll return you back to the main screen after you've reached the last lap. I also have the feature built in. If you click the laps button, it'll switch over to distance. Here you'll see it's because we went 2 miles, a little over 2 miles, you'll see the one gray line near the middle saying that's mile 1, and then you see the gray line at the far right that indicates that that was the 2nd mile. You can also toggle through that, so if we go to the 1st mile, it updates the display, shows our averages and all that good stuff. All this is highly useful for training. You can really analyze your ride. Again, we can zoom into just that hill and then click the magnify plus, and then there we have that. So we notice that the majority of the time was spent in Zone 5, and the maximum power 622 watts, and the average power is 285.8. So not a bad little stint. So that basically shows you the functionality that we've given you to analyze a ride. And one of the other cool features, if you have a coach or you want to store your rides or email those to your friends, if you click the button at the very top right here that's got the little clipboard on it, it will show you the ride breakdown. It'll show you pretty much all the information that you could ever want on a ride. It shows you each one of the laps breakdown. But the cool thing I did is you can copy the block. So we copy the block, now we can paste that in an email, we can paste that in any basic Word type functionality document. You know, I personally, I use it for after I race. We will go and we'll get that information to my coach, so I copy it, paste it in an email, and then we're ready to go with that. So that's a pretty cool little feature. Also, there's sometimes I'm only interested in the zone, heart rate zone data, so I've given you a button down there to click copy zone data only. That's pretty handy as well. Sometimes they don't want all the average speeds, all the, you know, all that information. We just want the heart rate information. The next thing I want to show you is the setup, where when you first launch the app, it's going to ask you for all this information, and this is where you put your information in. We can calculate your heart rate zones based on your age. It's not very accurate, but you know, it may or may not be. It depends, but the best way to do it is with a heart rate test, and you can find plenty of information on the internet to go ahead and calculate your actual heart rate zones for testing. I'm just going to cancel out of that and go back. We've also given you a user's guide that walks you through pretty much what I've done here. Then click back out of that. Now, some of the things I want to show you are, if we go to our main menu, clicking the upper left hand icon button, we have the show activities. That'll take you back to the activity selector, and then we have achievements. These achievements are pretty cool because it tells you like the top 10 longest rides, top 10 best pace, top 10 best average pace, top 10 maximum speed, top 10 average speed, and it cites the ride and the value of each of them in the top 10. So you can look through that. TSS scores, calories burned, top 10 total climbing, distance per month, and duration per month. These are good handy statistics to have around, just so that you can kind of monitor your progress and such. If we go back to the main menu again, we can look at it. I'm going to go backwards, but we look at the weekly stats first. Now it just happened to be a rest week for me, so I'm pretty low on pretty low on rides this week. But nevertheless, you can see our rides calculated out, and I'm going to show you one of the previous months here, or I'm sorry, weeks here, where it did 9 rides and total distance of 152.8 miles, average distance 17 miles. So it breaks it down really nice for you. And again, the copy block will copy that week, and so you can send it to your coach at the end of the week, or just keep it as a record, or several other things that you want to accomplish. We also can look at the monthly. So right now we're in July, and we have 13 rides, total distance 159.5, and it breaks it down in the averages and maxes of interest. Again, you can copy the block, and then we can look at the annual breakdown, which does basically the same kind of thing, and you can kind of take a look over that. And then the all-time stats, that gives you all, based off of all the rides that you've done with your Garmin, it will calculate all that out for you. And with that, you can also refresh the activities. So if you add a new activity and you have the application open, you can click refresh activities, and it'll bring any of the new activities right back down. But if you click the show activities, it'll take a few seconds because of the calculations involved, but then it'll take us back to the rides. And there's also, this works really good with a trainer and such. Here I have a new position test, and this is basically just, I modified the bike settings a little bit, and so I just did a quick little zone 2-3 ride to kind of see how that felt and everything, and you can see the numbers and such. Because I was on a trainer, it gives you rather weird GPS stats that's basically in my backyard there, and it's who knows what it's doing. But the Garmin's basically picking up GPS data, and kind of goes with that. But that's kind of an overview of the GarmaxPRO and how you get it from the ride to the actual being able to view the data. And of course, at any time you can come back and view any of the data that you may have done before, and all these features are still available to you. Well, I hope you give it a try. We definitely tried to put the best features and the most features that we could possibly fit on the iPhone into this for you. So please enjoy, and if you want to email me, it's rs_herhuth@yahoo.com. Or you can visit our website at www.herhutinteractive.com. That's HERHUTH interactive, INTERACTIVE.com. And this concludes our video. We appreciate you taking a look at us, and if you like what you see and you're interested, GarmaxPRO is available on the App Store. And again, we appreciate your purchase and hope you enjoy it as much as we have making it.